First things first, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing? It's good to see you again.
Yeah, certainly. Good to have a great new album ready, so we have something to talk about. It's very interesting. So let's dive straight into it. Now,
Hell yeah.
the debut album of Go Ahead and I was kind of perceived as this COVID album, right? It's during the lockdowns, you had a bunch of time on your hands, but now there's a second one. So how was the lead up different for this one?
A couple things were different about it for sure. The writing process was a little bit different. I had actually started writing it some by myself while my dad was on tour.
Mm.
He was out with Soulfly and Cavalera doing Beneath the Remains and Arise and stuff last year. And yeah, so I had started writing on my own while I was at home. And it was a similar approach, at least in terms of what we were going for. We wanted to keep it in that death metal meets crust punk kind of mashup thing that we were doing. But yeah, it was a little bit different. You know what I mean? I started coming up with some of it on my own. The inspirations were a little bit different. We were diving a little more into mental health and psychological themes and stuff like that. So in a way, it was kind of a post-COVID. This one's kind of a post-COVID album. All the aftermath of those couple of years.
Well,
You know?
sonically, you can definitely hear kind of the frustration building, right? There's
Yeah.
this anger or yeah, frustration. I don't know how else to put it, but when you were on your own, starting to work on these riffs and thinking about subjects and stuff, what did you notice was bubbling to the top? What did you notice where your mind was at?
To be honest, man, it was all over the place, and I
Okay,
was personally in a pretty crazy headspace. To be honest,
okay,
I there's a lot on my mind, I guess you could say. I don't want to dive too personally
sure.
into but yeah, I was definitely going through some stuff that was weighing on me, and I was feeling everything. It felt like, tons of anxiety sometimes, depression, anger, frustration, as you mentioned.
Mm.
And that's why when it came time to write the lyrics and come up with the concept of the album to accompany the riffs, I went in that direction. It also stemmed from just the world a little bit, the constant struggle of things, the way that each year just starts to seem a little bit harder than the one before,
Mm.
especially here in America. Between coming up with rent, economy things,
Inflation, yeah, it's crazy.
inflation, personal struggles, um, you know, stuff happening to friends, substance issues, things like that. You know what I mean? It was kind of an obvious decision to go there. And I was actually I had moved to a different town for a while where I didn't really know anybody.
Okay.
So I had a lot of time just in my apartment alone. You know what I mean? And I felt like it was kind of like The Shining a little bit. It was very cold, lots of snow where I was, and yeah, I was writing like crazy. And it was probably once I had three or four songs, that was when I brought my dad into it, and we started writing together. We started making demos and doing we did the demos similar to the first record, and all in all, yeah, it was a crazy time of just frustration and depression and things like that. And that this album kind of was my outlet.
Yeah, and luckily you had that outlet and you have music to kind of channel those feelings through. And I read something interesting the other day where there was an interview with your father, and they asked about his riff writing and that he only uses the four strings and everything. Now, do you personally, do you have a certain way you like to approach writing riffs, or what are you looking for in a good riff?
Mostly it's just by ear for
Okay.
me. I'm not exactly very educated in music theory and things like that. I don't know that much about keys and things like that. So I really just do it by ear. And, particular with this record, there's a lot of dissonance. You know what I mean? There's a lot of chords that sound a little odd, and a little strange. But I really like that. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm not really a conventional player. So, when it came to writing this one, yeah, it was just sort of like I was just trying weird things, trying to stretch my fingers as much as I could, and find those weird notes to go together. And like I said, it was one of those things. Once I would hear it, I'd be like, "Oh, this is cool," and take a video, record it real quick so that I don't forget it. And at one point, I probably had 50 to 100 videos on my phone of just random riffs and things like that. And I started putting them together. I was like, oh, I like this one with this one. And, you know what I mean? I like this switch into that. And, it was a whole crazy little project that I was doing for a while. It probably wouldn't have even made sense to anybody else. But up here, it was all coming together. You know what I mean? But yeah, in terms of riffs, I like stuff that evokes feelings. I like stuff that, sounds original, that doesn't sound like a bunch of other bands that I've heard before. Some of it even comes down to taking influences from different styles of music that aren't metal. I was actually listening to like a lot of shoegaze and like dark wave synth kind of stuff during that time. So weirdly enough, some of those heavy chunky riffs actually came from very, very different influences. But like I said, that's kind of my whole thing, is to just make it original and make it kind of weird, a little bit noisy and a little bit crazy, and that's definitely what I was going for.
Yeah, and what you mentioned about the dissonance and kind of those I wrote it down for Unhealthy Mechanisms, the title track, but it kind of those kind of dissonance and those almost kind of jarring chord switches, or it really fits with the mental health theme. So were you conscious of that? That kind of that, especially, and you mentioned also the tempo changes, the dynamics within these songs. It's very much like a brain going in all kinds of directions.
Yeah, absolutely. That was definitely part of the approach.
Right.
To me, it's very important that the music and the lyrics and everything goes together with what I'm talking about, as well as what I'm playing. So yeah, it definitely, it's kind of like, for a little while I was calling it like straight jacket music, you know what I mean? Really fast, and then it slows down, and then it has noise that builds up for 2 minutes sometimes, particularly on the title track, Unhealthy Mechanisms, like you mentioned. There's almost a minute and a half of just noise buildup, you know what I mean? And to me, that was part of the craziness of it a little bit, and it's spastic. It's kind of like your moods, kind of like a bipolar depression disorder type thing, And to me, I thought that was really cool. It really went with the lyrics perfectly, and once it was all together, it was like, yeah, this makes sense. It's chaotic, but in a controlled way.
When you write about these very, very important but difficult subjects, I suppose, and they're very personal to you too. Is it still a? I mean, I'm sure you have a great relationship with your father, but is it still? Are you anxious when you have to kind of show these demos or show these ideas to your father and Johnny and the other people that you play with?
Oh, of course. It's always strange to bring music to people and get their reaction, and yeah, so before that, yeah, there's always some feelings of nervousness and are they gonna like it, are they gonna be weird, but thankfully, yeah, like you said, I do have a good relationship with my dad, and including Johnny on this record. I mean, he's one of my best friends outside of music. So, we all kind of were talking about what we were going through and being really open and honest with each other, actually, and that was what made it more comfortable. It was easier to explain to them, oh, I'm feeling brokenhearted, and that's kind of where I came up with this. Or, I read this story in the news that really pissed me off, and that's where I came up with this one. And, I think being able to do it with people that understand was the coolest thing about it. But, yeah, you're always a little nervous. You're always a little, like, hey guys, we're going to talk about this on this song, hopefully we don't get too crazy, or too in depth about things. But, once we started working on it, the nerves went away.
Oh, that's good to hear. Well, talking about Johnny, then, what was it like having him play drums, and kind of what do you think he added to the sound of Go Ahead and Die?
He's he's a phenomenal drummer, because he has so much speed. Like he has such a background with crust, D beat, and grindcore and stuff like that. That his speed is really impeccable. But he hits really, really hard, and he's a bit of a bigger dude. He's got some weight behind his hits. You know what I mean? And I actually really like that. And
Yeah, definitely.
Comparing him and Zach, who did the first record, they're both great drummers in my opinion, and it was amazing to work with both of them. But I would say, yeah, Zach had a little bit more of a jazzy influence, and he had a little bit more of a kind of like fusion technical background a little bit, whereas Johnny was just more of a power player. Maybe not as complex, but he hits really, really hard and makes the snares on the blast beats and things like that are crisp. You know what I mean? We didn't have to trigger anything. There's no drum samples. There's no, very minimal type of fidgeting with whatever, and like I said, I mean, he's one of my best friends. So getting to involve him on this was awesome to me, and through the writing, recording, everything, it was just really good to have him there, and I think he did a phenomenal job.
And am I right in saying, because you mentioned kind of the production process as well, because you do play bass guitar and you do vocals, and this time around you added some production production duties to what you do. So can you still keep kind of the what's the word? I can only think of the Dutch word.
No, that's okay. I understand.
The overview. Can you still have like the overview when you put on so many hats?
Yeah, and I am actually one of those people where I'm a little bit of a control freak. Okay. So for me, I actually enjoyed it. And I don't actually know much about the recording side of things, but the engineer we worked with, John Aquilino, he made it very easy to, take the artistic view with the, how do you say, I guess the technical view of the board, and, basically, yeah, I was making those final decisions of this is the guitar tone we're going to use. These are the amps and cabinets that I want to use. This is how I think we should tune the drums. The vocals we should record this way. So it was a very nice blend, and he gave me a lot of freedom. He was basically there to hit the buttons and do the things exactly how I asked him to. So there was a little bit of pressure, and there was a little bit of, it's like, all right, the ball is in my court now, and I'm going to be the one who's going to make these decisions, and it could come out very good or it could come out horrible. And it was definitely a proving moment for me, I feel like. But yeah, getting to make those decisions actually left me really happy because, it really annoys me when you want something to sound away and you start to argue and bicker about it, and
Mm.
one person wants this, one person wants this. Especially when I'm having this whole vision. I see the songs how I want them to be. I see the album cover how I want it to be. I see all this stuff in my brain, and I need people that are going to help me achieve this. So it was a team effort, but I was really happy to get to make those decisions. And even with my dad, I think I really pushed him
Mm.
to try new stuff, especially with his voice. I was really there was a couple times he did a verse, and I was like, that was good, but you can do better, man. I know you can. You can get it even crazier than that one. And he would. So it was awesome. And I think I earned a lot of respect with him during that record. And I think the more people that hear it, the more people will realize what kind of songwriter that I am.
Yeah, and I saw a bunch of those clips on social media where your father was doing the vocal takes and seeing himself amping himself up and that kind of stuff. It's really cool to get a behind the scenes peek and how that process went.
Definitely. Yeah.
I have a couple more questions. Well, you mentioned your vision, and what I find very interesting about the aesthetics, if I can call it that, of the band is all the animation and kind of it fits so well with the themes and I wrote his name down. I think the Tumor video was made by Gustin Chiorano. Chiorano.
Yeah.
Sorry, I butchered his name, but
Oh,
this
I would too.
this aesthetic, this visual aspect of Go Ahead and Die, how important is that to you?
It's very important. The way that an album comes together has a lot to do with the visuals and imagery as well. And I only know that because when I was a teenager, when I was getting into metal, there was plenty of albums that I would pick up just because of the album cover or just
Right.
because of a video I saw on YouTube or something like that. So that stuff is very important to me, and it's kind of, to me, that stuff really represents what specifically the song is about, but also with the album cover and stuff. You're trying to kind of capture this whole thing in an image. And, once again, those were things that I was making the decisions on. I was saying, let's do this song, and this will be the video that goes with it. And these are all the ideas that I have. And Costin is amazing because you really don't have to tell him a lot, and he'll just explore. With the Tumors video, I think I sent him maybe one paragraph, 3 or 4 sentences, kind of, that was the idea behind it. And he just explored all this crazy stuff. And that was so much fun. But yeah, it is very important to have that good image and to have that, like, it's a nice package. You know what I mean? You're getting the whole thing: the sound, the images, the picture of the band, the book with the credits and the lyrics and everything. I appreciate those things. And even if we're more into the digital age where people don't appreciate it as much, especially the younger crowd, I do like those things still, and I want to make this record to make me happy and proud of it. So yeah, those things are very important. And once again, getting to be the one who makes the final decisions on that was it was an honor. It was very, it definitely felt like a moment to prove myself. And not to toot my own horn or anything, but I felt like I did pretty good, and I feel like this is something, it might continue in this direction.
Did you need that? Did you need kind of that, not necessarily from the outside world, but the affirmation from yourself that you could do it or that you were able to do it? Was that something you needed in a way?
Yeah. I think, to me personally, that was very important, and it was something that I yeah, I wanted to prove to myself as much
Right.
as the affirmation of other people. And, I think it's one of those, you know, self insecurity thing. We're always harder on ourselves. We're
Right.
always more critical of ourselves. And despite the fact that, I started my first band when I was 14, so I'm going on 15 years of doing this. There are still times when I doubt myself. There are still times when I wonder, am I any good at this? Am I, you know what I mean? Is this worth all the time and everything that I'm putting into it? And like I said, I am kind of one of those visionary types. When I start working on a record, it always has this whole concept. It always has this whole thing that I want to achieve. So for me, yeah, to make that leap from just being a guitar player to like, no, I'll make this whole record. I'll make everything from the songs to the lyrics to the videos to the pictures to everything, the tones and everything in between. That was very important to me, and I did want to achieve that, and I did I did want to prove that for myself was very important to me. And I'm only human too. Hearing that I did a good job from other people, it feels nice. It feels like all this work I've done, all this maturity, from a 14-year-old starting my first band to, I'm almost 30 now.
Right.
It's been a long road. It's been a crazy road. I've been in multiple different bands and all these different experiences, and yeah, to have a little bit of affirmation that, it was worth it. It seems to be going somewhere. It seems to be becoming successful, that does feel good. And some people might not see it that way. They might see it as you know selling out or blah blah blah, this and that, but I don't really care about those things.
Well, you have a song about those people, right? Tumors.
Oh, of course, exactly. It's like, if you stay the same way, people will hate you. If you change, people will hate
There's
you.
no
So
winning. So
there's no winning
yeah.
with those types. So you got to just do what makes you happy, and
Right.
that was very important to me.
Now, it's very awesome to hear that you went through that process, and I think you definitely can be proud of yourself. It's an awesome album. I have one last question. Are there any chances you will be touring the album?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, at the moment right now, I'm on the road with Cavalera Conspiracy. We're doing Morbid Devastation stuff.
Right.
And then there's a second leg of that in Europe at the end of the year. But as of now, we're already booking Go Ahead and Die in the States. So that's where the first tour will happen. That's going to be early next year. And as far as I know, by next summer, we should be getting over to Europe and hopefully some other countries as well. Hopefully South America and, maybe Japan, Australia, wherever we can go. But yeah, because this was a COVID ban, we've never toured. We've only done one show as a full live band. And to us, it's absolutely important to play this stuff and I guess showcase it, So yeah, next year, with the album coming out next month and everything, it's absolutely part of the plan to do some touring.
That's great news. Igor, as always, may I thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
Oh, likewise. It was a pleasure. Very fun to talk to you.